Officer rescues a pregnant German shepherd in a blizzard. What followed warmed hearts across town. The blizzard settled over Northwood Ridge like a punishment. Snow didn't fall tonight. It crashed, slashing sideways in white sheets that swallowed the road and erased the pines. Officer Evan Walker had driven this route 100 times, but never in a storm that made the world feel like it might simply disappear. His radio crackled with static, then died. No traffic, no voices, just the wind screaming against the patrol truck. He eased off the gas as something flickered in the headlights. At first it looked like a fallen branch. Then it moved. Evan braked hard. A shadow staggered in the storm. A man. Big frame. Shoulders hunched, his arms swung fast, jerky, violent. Snow whipped past him, revealing what he was hitting. A German shepherd. A male. Chained to a stump, half buried under fresh snow. The dog strained against the chain, using his own body as a shield. Behind him, curled tightly into the storm, was another shepherd. This one female, belly swollen, whimpering. The man kicked the male again. The sound cut through the wind like a bone snapping. Evan was out of the truck before he registered the cold. His boots hit the snow, sinking deep. His hand hovered near his holster as he shouted over the storm. Police. Step away now. The man flinched, turned halfway, and for a second Evan saw his face. Narrow, pale, eyes wild like something cornered. Then he bolted toward the tree line, vanishing into the curtain of white. Evan didn't chase him, not when the dogs were dying at his feet. He knelt beside the male shepherd. The dog didn't growl, didn't snap. He just stared. Deep amber eyes locked on Evan like he was trying to force a message into him. Not fear, not pain, something else. Urgency. Easy, buddy. I've got you. The dog's entire body trembled, but he shifted sideways, making space so Evan could see the female curled behind him. Snow covered her halfway up her ribs. Evan brushed it off, revealing her heaving breaths and the faint push of puppies moving under her skin. She's in labor. Dear God. But it was the male who kept drawing Evan's focus. The dog refused to look away. His chest rose and fell too fast, but his gaze stayed steady, sharp, almost human, as if he was begging Evan to notice something more. Evan slipped an arm under the male's torso to lift him. The dog winced but didn't resist. Snow had matted his fur with blood. A metal collar dug into his neck, the tag ripped off. You're all right. I've got you, he whispered. That was when he saw it. A black rectangle half buried in the snow, right where the male had been standing guard. A phone. Cheap. Burned around the edges like someone tried to destroy it. Evan picked it up. The screen was cracked but still flickered to life. One message thread. No names, no timestamps. Just a string of words. K9 inventory ready. Moving soon. Keep the male alive. He remembers the route. Evan felt the temperature drop even more. Not from the storm. What the hell were these dogs part of? He looked down at the male shepherd. The dog's gaze drilled through him, almost answering the question with the intensity alone. All right, boy. Let's get you out of here. What's your name? The dog blinked slowly, as if giving permission. Oak, Evan whispered. You look like an oak. Strong even while you're breaking. The dog's ears twitched, accepting it. He lifted Oak gently and carried him towards the patrol truck. The female whimpered, and Evan returned immediately, gathering her into his jacket despite her size. She trembled, but her breathing eased the moment he touched her. Behind him, the forest groaned in the wind. Somewhere beyond the pines, the man who attacked them was still there. Watching. Waiting. Evan opened the door, settling both dogs across the back seat. Oak curled around the female again, shivering but protective to the last breath. Evan climbed into the driver's seat and locked the doors. His pulse thudded behind his ribs. He looked once more at the burner phone in his hand. K9 inventory. Moving soon. Keep the mail alive. He remembers the route. The blizzard roared across the windshield, but Evan barely noticed, because suddenly he understood the look in Oak's eyes. The shepherd hadn't been scared for himself. He had been warning him. There was someone else out there, something bigger waiting in the dark, and all of it had just become Evan Walker's problem. The truck rumbled forward, tires grinding through the storm as Oak lifted his head, staring out the window into the forest. Not afraid? Not broken? Watching, as if the night wasn't finished with them yet. The storm had calmed by the time Evan pushed through the glass doors of Northwood Ridge Animal Clinic, carrying the female shepherd in his arms while Oak limped beside him. A sharp blast of warm air swept over them, carrying the scent of antiseptic and pine cleaner. The contrast made Evan stumble for a second. The world inside felt too safe, too clean for what he had just pulled out of the snow. Dr. Lily Harron looked up from a stainless steel tray, blonde hair tied back, eyes widening when she saw the state of the dogs. Without a word, she rushed forward. Put them here, now. Oak's steps faltered, but he refused help, hobbling onto the examination table by himself. He planted his stance next to the female, like he was making sure she stayed in sight. Lily paused at that small act of loyalty, then got to work. As she trimmed away blood-crusted fur, she frowned. These wounds aren't from a fight. They're patterned, repeated impacts. Someone used an object, something heavy. Evan nodded. I saw him. The man hit Oak first, hard, but Oak didn't move. He just shielded her like he didn't care what happened to him. Lily glanced at the female, then back at Oak, whose eyes followed every motion she made. She's due any day. Maybe tonight she wouldn't have survived out there without him. Something in the room changed with that sentence. Evan felt it too. Oak wasn't just injured, he had chosen every blow. Lily continued examining him, then stopped suddenly. Her voice dropped. Evan, look at this. She angled the light. Tiny crystalline flecks glittered in the torn fur near Oak's flank. What is that? Residue. Cocaine. And this isn't surface transfer. Someone packed the substance into adhesive bands under his fur. She removed a strip hidden under the coat. They used him to carry product without detection. Evan felt his stomach knot. They used him like a container. Lily found 2 more strips. When she peeled the second one off, Oak's muscles tightened, but he didn't snap. He just stared at Evan, almost apologizing for something he never chose. Then Lily's fingers brushed against a small bump under his skin. Hold him steady. I need to scan this. She passed the handheld microchip reader along Oak's neck. The machine beeped. A profile blinked onto the tablet. Lily's expression changed instantly. Evan, you need to see this. Oak, male, 5 years, K9 Unit 7B, status, missing. Program, Border Interdiction Task Force. Evan froze. That program shut down last year. The report said budget cuts. But there were rumors. Missing dogs, lost paperwork. Except this one isn't lost. Lily scrolled down. Another name appeared. Handler Maya Torres. Evan whispered the name. A federal investigator declared missing 10 months earlier during an undercover operation. No body ever found. A case that went cold too fast. Before he could ask Lily to pull more records, Oak suddenly stiffened. His ears shot up. His eyes locked on the clinic door like a trigger had been pulled. A second later, someone outside tried the handle. Lily jumped. We're closed. Who would? Oak exploded into barking. Not random barking, targeted, furious. The kind of sound that carried memory, recognition, warning. Evan reached for his sidearm. Who's out there? The person on the other side of the door flinched. A shadow crossed the frosted glass. Then footsteps retreated fast across the snow. Oak growled, low and controlled. Not fear, identification. Evan crouched beside him. "Oak, who was that?" Oak didn't blink. His chest expanded with each breath, muscles tight, as if he were holding back the instinct to chase. Lily swallowed. That's not a normal reaction. He knows whoever it is. Evan picked up the burner phone he had pulled from the snow earlier. He opened the only message again. "K9 inventory ready. Keep the mail alive." He remembers the route. Evan whispered the name he had heard the attacker yell into the storm, Ryder Knox. The reaction was instant. Oak lunged forward, barking so violently the table trembled. His teeth flashed, his paws scraped metal. Not wild, precise. Controlled rage locked onto a single name. Evan steadied him. "Oak, hey, look at me." The dog froze, eyes burning, breath heaving. It took 3 long seconds before he slowly lowered himself again, watching the door, every nerve alive. Lily stared at the wounds. Whoever Ryder is, Oak associates him with trauma. That level of response suggests long-term exposure, abuse, conditioning, maybe months. Evan exhaled slowly. Or years. Then something clicked in his mind. Oak didn't bark earlier when Evan found him. He didn't bark in fear, or pain, or confusion. He only barked at one thing. The man connected to the message. Evan leaned closer to the dog. "Oak, can you find him? Can you lead me?" Oak didn't move, didn't blink, just lifted his head with a slow, deliberate certainty. The answer wasn't in a sound. It was in the way he stood. The same way he had stood in the snow, guarding the pregnant female. The same way he had stared into the forest after the attacker fled. He wasn't reacting. He was tracking. Instinct awakening like a memory resurfacing through fog. Evan felt it in his chest. Something Oak had been forced to do. Something he hated. Something he never forgot. Oak wasn't broken. He was a map. A living witness to whatever happened to his unit, his handler, and the missing investigator Maya Torres. Lily lowered her voice. "Evan, if Oak remembers routes from that old K9 program, he remembers more than that. He remembers where he escaped from." Outside, the wind picked up again, rattling the metal awning. Oak looked towards the noise, muscles coiled, as if the storm itself had a name. Ryder Knox. And Oak was done running from him. The snow had eased into a soft whisper outside the clinic windows, but inside the examination room, tension settled like frost. Oak lay on a padded blanket near the heater, muscles tight, eyes pinned to the entrance, as if expecting the door to explode inward at any second. The pregnant female rested beside him, chest rising steadily now, safe but fragile. Evan sat on a metal stool, the burner phone in his palm. The cracked screen flickered, the battery only half alive. He connected it to a portable power bank Lily handed him, and the device steadied enough for him to begin digging. He opened the message thread again. Only one conversation existed. No name, no contact photo, just a string of cold clinical texts. Inventory, shipment window, handlers, routes. Evan scrolled. More messages unlocked. Inventory list 4B. A file attachment sat beneath it. He opened it. Rows of ID codes filled the screen. K9 designations, one after another. Oak's ID among them. Others he recognized from old police bulletins. Dogs labeled missing. Lost in training accidents. Or written off as unfit for service. Except here, they were grouped like merchandise. Evan kept scrolling until he reached the bottom of the file, where a handwritten note had been photographed. Keep the mails intact. They're more useful when mobile. His throat tightened. Oak wasn't an isolated case. He was one box in a larger shipment. Lily hovered behind him. What does all that mean? Evan didn't answer. He tapped another icon. This time, a set of images loaded. A warehouse, old brick, rusted roof panels. Snow drifted under broken windows. Inside, rows of stacked metal cages held dogs of every size, all German shepherds or Belgian Malinois. Some barked at the camera. Some huddled in fear. Some looked too still. Lily gasped. Some of those dogs looked sedated. That's illegal transport. That's trafficking. Oak growled, low and trembling, recognizing the place instantly. Evan opened the next file. A video. The footage shook as if recorded secretly. 2 men in heavy jackets strapped adhesive bands to a dog's ribcage. The dog whimpered. The men ignored him. They stepped back while another man injected a liquid into a small pouch taped to the dog's side. One of the handlers said something faintly audible. "Move them by morning. Don't overdose this batch. Last time was messy." Evan's jaw tightened so hard he felt pain shoot up his temple. Lily covered her mouth. "They're using them to transport drugs. These dogs don't know what's happening to them." Oak rose to his feet. The moment the handler's voice echoed from the phone, Oak's entire posture locked. His ears pointed forward, his breath sharpened. He wasn't listening. He was remembering. The male shepherd stepped toward Evan, nudging the phone with his nose, growling again at the face of the man on screen. Evan squinted. The handler's face was partially visible. Beanie hat, scar across his chin. Evan froze. "Ryder, that's him. That's the man from the woods." Before he could say it aloud, the clinic door buzzer chimed faintly. Oak lunged toward the sound. Lily jumped back. "He's reacting like something is right outside." Evan grabbed his radio. Static. The storm had killed most signals in the area. He checked his phone. 1 bar. Barely enough to reach the station. He dialed anyway. "This is Officer Walker. I need eyes on the front lot." The dispatcher didn't answer. The line crackled, then dissolved into silence. Oak barked again, sharper this time. Not frantic. Purposeful. A warning directed at the door. Something isn't right. Evan moved slowly, easing toward the lobby with his hand hovering near his holster. The security monitor sat above the counter. He flicked through the cameras until the view outside the clinic appeared. And there he was, a shadow. Tall, hooded, standing half-hidden behind the dumpster, too still for someone simply cutting through. Evan zoomed in. Snow fell across the grainy image, but the outline was unmistakable. Ryder Knox. He was back, watching, waiting. Lily whispered behind him. "He followed you here." Oak suddenly stopped barking. He stood perfectly still, like every instinct inside him condensed into a single line of focus, aimed at the monitor. His breathing slowed, head lowered, muscles coiled. The room seemed to shrink around him. Evan recognized that stance. He'd seen it in trained K9s his entire career. Target acquired. But something else flickered inside Oak. Not just aggression, not just memory. Fear mixed with duty, as if he understood Ryder wasn't here for him. He was here for the pregnant female. Evan's chest tightened. The phone message echoed back at him. "Keep the male alive." He remembers the route, meaning the female was expendable, meaning Ryder intended to finish what he started. Evan turned toward the dogs, but Oak was already moving, positioning himself in front of the female's blanket, like a soldier taking a defensive post in a doorway. He wasn't going to let Ryder near her. Not now, not ever. Suddenly, the security feed cut to black. Evan cursed. That wasn't weather. Someone had yanked the cable. He grabbed his jacket. Lily backed up, panicked. "Should we call for backup? The line won't hold. And if Ryder's messing with the cams, he's close." Evan readied his weapon, inching toward the exit. The snow outside muffled everything, swallowing sound. His breath fogged the air as he cracked the door open half an inch. Nothing. but Oak let out a low, vibrating growl. Something moved behind the clinic. Soft. Fast. A footstep on fresh snow. Evan pushed the door open fully and stepped out, scanning the alley behind the building. Empty. A heavy silence settled over the lot. Then Lily's voice echoed from inside. Evan. Come back. You need to see this. Now. He ran back in. Lily pointed at Oak's microchip data on the tablet. A new alert blinked at the bottom of the screen. Unauthorized tracking attempt detected. Last ping, 30 seconds ago. Someone had tried to activate Oak's old K9 tracking implant. Someone with access to the original program. Someone who knew exactly where Oak was. This wasn't just a rescue anymore. Oak wasn't just a victim. He was a key. A piece of a map someone desperately wanted to retrieve. Evan looked at Oak, whose amber eyes met his without fear. As if the shepherd understood everything. As if he knew this was only the beginning. The morning after the break-in attempt, the storm finally lifted. Sunlight melted across the snow in long, pale streaks. But the town felt no warmer. Northwood Ridge carried the uneasy quiet of a place that had nearly been breached. Evan didn't sleep. Oak didn't either. The shepherd paced the clinic room all night, pausing only to touch his nose to the pregnant female, as if confirming she was still breathing. By sunrise, Evan was already on the phone with the State Bureau. They sent an investigator within hours. Her name was Harper Quinn. She stepped into the clinic with the sharp calm of someone who had spent too many years staring into the worst parts of human nature. Dark coat, navy slacks, expression unreadable but observant. She scanned the room, taking in the damage on Oak's fur, the burner phone on the table, and the fear hiding behind Lily's eyes. You must be Officer Walker. Evan nodded. Oak lifted his head, amber eyes fixed on Harper like he was already assessing whether she was friend or threat. Harper studied him for a long moment. Then she exhaled. So it's true, he's alive. Evan frowned. You know him? Not personally, but his file has been a ghost on my desk for almost a year. Harper opened her tablet and pulled up a report. A familiar photo appeared. Oak, younger, healthier, wearing a uniform K9 vest. Handler beside him. A woman with strong features and a calm smile. Maya Torres. Evan felt the air shift. The missing investigator. Harper nodded. She went undercover in a smuggling operation tied to Leo Carver. Her last transmission mentioned a plan to reroute trained K9s for transport work. Then silence. No body. No trace. Just gone. Oak stepped forward slowly, nostrils flaring at the image on the screen. His ears eased back, not in aggression but in recognition. Not fear. Memory. Harper lowered the tablet. This dog wasn't missing by accident. He was taken. We think Carver stole trained K9s, rewired their routines, and used them as mobile carriers. Border dogs know routes, terrain, signals. They can travel long distances without panic. Perfect for smuggling. Oak growled at the word Carver, a deep rumble that echoed through the room. Harper didn't flinch. He remembers the name. That's important. Lily stepped beside them, speaking softly. He reacted last night to someone trying to break in. He knew exactly who was outside. Ryder Knox, Evan added, the man who attacked him in the woods. At the sound of that name, Oak's muscles snapped tight. His tail stiffened, his chest expanded. Evan placed a calming hand on his side, but Oak kept his eyes on Harper, demanding she understand. Harper did. Her voice dropped. Ryder was one of Carver's enforcers, a ghost in the system. No address, no payroll, but his name kept surfacing in intercepted messages. If Ryder was here, Carver is closer than we thought. Evan felt the weight of it press against his ribs. The warehouse photos, the inventory lists, The missing dogs. The message about Oak remembering the route. This wasn't small, and they weren't done with it. Harper moved to the side counter and opened the burner phone. She scrolled with the precision of someone who had done this 1,000 times. Inventory sets, drop-off coordinates, payment logs coded with initials. Then she stopped on one line. Shipment rerouted? Use the old siding track. Only the mail knows the way. Her voice tightened. This refers to a decommissioned rail line west of town. No cameras, no state patrol coverage. Perfect for moving product. Evan's mind clicked rapidly. That area is nothing but trees and abandoned hunting cabins. If Oak escaped from there... He didn't finish the sentence. Oak already had. The shepherd stood suddenly, head lifting sharply. His body angled towards the door. He wasn't reacting to a sound. He was orienting, picking a direction. Harper watched him with widening eyes. He's tracking. Not by scent, by memory. He knows that route. Oak took 2 steps toward the exit, then looked back at Evan, giving a low bark. Not desperate, commanding. Come with me. Evan felt something electric run through his chest. Harper leaned in. If he wants to lead, we follow. But understand this, Officer Walker. Wherever he's taking us, it won't be clean. Before they could move, Lily rushed in, breathless. Evan, I ran the last ping on his microchip again. There's another signal. She turned the tablet toward them. A secondary tracker, hidden under the original implant. Someone embedded a second chip. Harper stiffened. That isn't standard issue. Only someone with access to the old research facility could do that. Lily swallowed. The signal wasn't sent from here last night. It came from outside town, near the old rail line. Oak barked once, sharply, as if confirming. The room fell silent. Harper looked at Evan with a gravity that belonged to people who had seen life unravel. Oak isn't just evidence. He's a map, a witness, maybe the only one left. Evan knelt beside the shepherd. Oak leaned forward, pressing his head against Evan's chest in a gesture that was part plea, part vow. Evan whispered, "We'll go where you need to take us." Oak pulled back, eyes steady, ready. The truth was no longer hidden in files or messages. It was standing on 4 legs, waiting for them to follow. The storm returned by nightfall, rolling over Northwood Ridge with a fury that rattled every pane of glass in the police station. Evan stood in the evidence room, reviewing the files Harper had pulled from the burner phone. Oak lay beside him, injured but alert, eyes fixed on the hallway as if he sensed something the rest of them couldn't. Harper paced along the cabinets. If the old rail line is active again, Carver is close. Ryder wouldn't risk breaking into town unless the timeline changed. Evan nodded, but he wasn't fully listening. Oak hadn't moved for several minutes, except for the occasional twitch of his ear. He was waiting. Watching. Too quiet. Evan murmured. Harper paused. What do you mean? Oak hears things long before we do. Right on cue, Oak lifted his head sharply. A low, warning growl rumbled through his chest. He wasn't facing the door. He was facing the ventilation grate. Evan's body froze. Someone was in the building. Harper whispered, "That's impossible. The front desk hasn't buzzed anyone in." An intercom chime echoed through the hallway. A voice filtered in from reception. Delivery for Officer Walker. Harper frowned. You expecting something? No. Oak barked sharply, sprinting toward the door despite the limp in his leg. Evan followed, hand on his holster. In the lobby, a man in a brown delivery jacket stood with a cardboard box. Head down, hat low. Too quiet for the storm outside. He looked up. Ryder knocks. The second their eyes met, Ryder dropped the box. The thud echoed, hollow and wrong. Oak lunged with a force that shook the floor tiles. Ryder drew a stun baton, swinging it wide. Oak dodged, teeth flashing. Evan fired once into the ceiling. "Police! Stop!" But Ryder didn't run for the exit. He ran for Oak. Harper shouted from behind them. "He wants the dog. Carver must have ordered it." Oak met Ryder head-on. The shepherd slammed into his legs, knocking him sideways. Ryder cursed, swinging the baton again. Sparks flew when it struck the metal desk. Oak barked, deep and furious, not from fear but recognition. He knew this man. He carried the scars to prove it. Evan dove in, tackling Ryder from behind. They crashed through a stack of chairs, Ryder fighting with desperate strength. The stun baton clattered across the floor. Oak grabbed it in his jaws and flung it aside. But Ryder was fast. Too fast. He twisted free and bolted down the hall. He's heading for evidence. Harper sprinted after him. Evan chased, Oak right beside him despite the pain dragging through his body. Snow blasted in through the back emergency door as Ryder kicked it open and sprinted into the alley behind the station. The blizzard swallowed him instantly. Oak shot past Evan, following the scent, feet punching into fresh snow. Evan ran after him, the wind slicing his face. The alley lights flickered in the storm, shrinking visibility to a few feet. Ryder's shadow darted between two parked patrol cars. "He's going for the shed?" Evan gasped. The off-site evidence overflow. Harper's voice echoed from behind. "If he destroys what's in there, we lose everything tying Carver to the dogs." They reached the shed seconds later, just as Ryder shattered the lock and slipped inside. Evan went in first. Oak followed, growling, hackles raised. The smell hit them instantly. Gasoline. Ryder stood in the corner, holding a lighter near a stack of evidence boxes. His smile was thin, almost calm. "Carver says hello." Evan stepped forward, gun drawn. "Don't do it. It won't save you." Ryder's eyes flicked to Oak. "I'm not trying to save myself." He flicked the lighter. Oak leapt before the flame touched the floor. He crashed into Ryder, knocking him backward. The lighter flew, hitting a shelf. Flames erupted instantly. Evan grabbed Oak's collar, dragging him back from the spreading fire. Ryder scrambled to his feet, coughing, and sprinted out through the side door into the storm. Harper appeared at the entrance, covering her mouth as smoke billowed outward. "We have to get out or we're dead." Evan yanked open a window, pushing Oak through first, then climbed out himself. Flames roared behind them, swallowing boxes and shelves. The heat hit them like a wave even through the cold storm air. By the time they reached the bank of snow outside, the shed was gone. A column of black smoke twisted up into the blizzard, devoured instantly by the wind. Harper dropped to her knees in the snow. That was months of evidence. Evan stared at the burning structure, chest heavy, and the videos from the warehouse, the smuggling routes, footage of the handlers. Oak stepped beside him, nudging his hand gently. His eyes were steady, calm, almost reassuring. Evan sank down, burying his hand in Oak's fur. "I'm sorry, buddy. I let him slip through, let him destroy everything." Oak pressed harder into his palm, tilting his head in a way that said something no human voice could translate. Not over. Not yet. Harper rose, brushing snow from her coat. Ryder burned the proof, but he didn't erase the truth. Oak still remembers. He knows where they went. Evan looked into the shepherd's eyes. Oak's gaze didn't waver. In the reflection of those amber eyes, Evan saw something more than instinct. Purpose. Oak wasn't broken by what Ryder did. He was sharpened by it. Evan exhaled. "Then we follow him." Oak barked once, a single decisive sound. The storm raged around them, but for the first time, Evan felt certain of one thing. The real hunt had just begun. The storm struck Northwood Ridge with a violence that felt deliberate, as if the mountains themselves were warning the town. Evan stood in the doorway of the police station, snow whipping across his face, when his radio crackled. Static. Then a strained voice. "Evan, help!" His heart slammed against his ribs. "Lily!" The transmission cut off. Harper ran in from the hallway, phone in hand, face pale. "Evan, Lily's clinic is empty. Her truck is gone. And we found tire tracks behind the building leading into the forest." Before she finished, Oak bolted toward the door, not running away, tracking. Evan followed, pulse hammering. "Carver took her," Harper said, breath frosting in the cold. "He's forcing a trade. Oak for Lily. And maybe for the pregnant shepherd, too." Evan clenched his jaw. He won't touch them. Oak barked once, sharp and urgent, then sprinted toward the service road leading past the ridge. They followed his lead. Snow blasted the windshield of Harper's SUV as they pushed deeper into the forest. The tires skidded on packed ice. The world outside was erased by white, except for glimpses of old rail lines half buried under decades of snowfall. This old line was shut down in the 90s. Harper said, "Perfect for someone like Carver." Evan stared at the burner phone map Harper had pulled earlier. One of the location tags Riley decoded sits right in the middle of this dead zone. Oak stood in the back seat, staring forward, muscles tight. Every few seconds he sniffed the air, then growled softly. They reached the abandoned rail corridor. The trees opened into a clearing, revealing a line of rusted boxcars and a half-collapsed switching tower leaning under the weight of the snow. A single floodlight hung crookedly from a power pole. But the light was on. Evan killed the engine. Oak lunged forward, pawing at the door. Harper grabbed her rifle. He smells her. Lily must be close. Evan opened the door and stepped into the storm. A scream cut through the wind. Lily. He and Harper sprinted down the tracks, Oak racing ahead. The floodlight flickered, illuminating a boxcar with a padlocked door. And beside it, Leo Carver, heavy coat, black gloves, eyes flat as ice. He held Lily by the arm, a gun at her ribs. 2 armed men flanked him, rifles raised. "You came faster than I thought," Carver said, his voice steady over the wind. "Good, saves me time." Evan leveled his gun. "Let her go. Now." Carver smirked. "Bring me the shepherd. The male. And the pregnant female. Or your vet dies right here." Before Evan could answer, Oak stepped forward through the snow, chest broad, eyes burning with a fury Evan had never seen. Carver's gaze sharpened. "The prodigal mutt. Should have put you down the day we took you." Evan's breath caught. "What did you say?" Carver tapped the gun against Lily's ribs. "Oh, he didn't tell you? That K9 of yours isn't just some stray. He belonged to the agent who tried to take us down. Maya Torres. Oak was her partner. Until he got in the way." Evan stiffened. Harper's head jerked toward him. "Torres? The missing investigator?" Carver grinned coldly. "She didn't die. Not yet." He pointed his chin toward the next boxcar. "You brought us new inventory, but we still have the original." Oak barked so violently the sound ripped through the clearing. He knew that name. He remembered her. Evan moved first. Oak followed like a bullet. The gunfight erupted instantly. Harper dropped behind a snowbank, firing precisely, taking out the man to Carver's left. Evan tackled the second, their bodies slamming into the icy ground. Oak charged straight for Carver. Carver tried to shoot, but Oak hit him center mass, jaws clamping onto the arm holding the gun. The weapon flew into the snow. Lily fell backward toward Harper, scrambling to cover. Evan shouted, "Oak down!" But Oak wouldn't leave Carver. Not yet. Not while Maya might still be alive. Evan smashed open the first boxcar with his boot. Inside were crates, collars, tracking harnesses, empty cages. Then he heard it. A faint cry. Harper helped Lily to cover and ran to Evan, shining her flashlight into the second boxcar's small window. "Someone's inside." They cut the padlock with Harper's rifle stock. The door groaned open. A woman lay chained to the wall, thin, weak, eyes half open but alive. Maya Torres. Oak pushed past Evan and leapt into the car, pressing his head into Maya's chest. The woman's trembling hand rose, brushing his fur. "Oak, you found me!" Her whisper broke something in Evan's chest. A shout snapped him back. Carver had thrown Oak off and was running toward the tree line. Evan sprinted after him. Harper covered the flank, firing at a second gunman who crawled out from behind a snowdrift, dropping him before he could aim. Carver stumbled through the deep snow, breath ragged. "You're ruining everything, Walker." Evan leveled his sights. "You already did that yourself." Carver turned, raising a knife. But Oak was faster. The shepherd barreled out of the whiteout, slamming into Carver's back. The crime boss hit the ground, the knife skidding across the ice. Oak stood over him, teeth bared, muzzle inches from his throat. Carver's voice broke for the first time. "Call him off." Evan approached slowly, snow crunching under his boots. Oak's breathing was deep and primal, but his eyes were locked on Evan, waiting for the order. "Stand down, Oak." The shepherd stepped back, but didn't take his eyes off the man who had stolen his partner, tortured him, and tried to kill him. Evan handcuffed Carver and dragged him to his feet. "You're done." Harper approached with Lily, who was shaking but alive. Maya leaned on the car door, exhausted but watching Oak with a look that could melt the whole storm around them. Oak trotted toward her, nudging her leg gently with his muzzle. Maya whispered, "You found me again." The storm raged around them, but for the first time that night the cold didn't matter, because the truth had been found, and justice had a new name. Oak. Snow was still falling when Evan escorted Leo Carver through the broken clearing, the man's hands cuffed behind his back, his coat torn, his breath ragged. Carver no longer carried the arrogance that had defined him for years. The blizzard had stripped him down to something smaller, something mortal. Harper walked behind them, rifle lowered but ready. Lily supported Maya, who staggered with each step, weak but conscious. Oak stayed pressed against her side, guiding her with a steadiness no human could match. By the time they reached the SUVs, backup units from the county had arrived. Emergency lights flashed through the snowfall, casting red and blue over the abandoned rail line like shifting ghosts. Deputy Sloan grabbed Carver from Evan's grip. "We got him. We'll transport him to county right now." Carver barked a laugh through chattering teeth. "Ryder will burn every file you have. None of this sticks without evidence." Harper stepped closer. "Funny thing about Ryder Knox, he flipped the second we put cuffs on him." Carver froze. Harper didn't look away. "He told us everything. Every shipment, every handler, every location, and every dog you used as a mule." Carver tried to smirk, but it faltered. Evan leaned in, voice low. "Your empire ends tonight. And the animals you broke? They get to walk away. You don't." Carver was shoved into the back of the cruiser, door slamming shut behind him. The engine rumbled to life, tires slicing through the snow as it pulled away. On the other side of the clearing, Ryder sat on the bumper of a patrol SUV, wrists cuffed, eyes swollen from the beating Oak had given him earlier. When he saw Carver being driven away, something in him cracked. He looked small, ashamed, maybe even relieved. Harper approached Ryder, ready to finish the rest. Ryder nodded with a trembling breath. "I'm done protecting him. He almost killed me for screwing up the handoff last month. I should have walked away then." "You walk away now," Harper said. "And you walk away under federal custody. Make it worth something." Ryder lowered his head. "I will." Lily turned her, attention to the pregnant shepherd, who had been hidden inside one of the boxcars. She lay on a blanket in the back of the clinic truck, breathing steadily but clearly exhausted. The cold had been unforgiving, and the stress had pushed her body close to the edge. Lily knelt beside her, gently lifting a paw. "Her vitals are holding. If we get her to the clinic in the next hour, she and her pups will have a real chance." Evan exhaled in relief. "How many do you think she's carrying?" 4, maybe 5. Lily smiled faintly. And they're fighters. She survived things no dog should endure. Oak sniffed the female shepherd tenderly, nudging her neck, then looked up at Evan as if informing him she needed to move now. Evan nodded. Let's go. They loaded the injured and cold-stricken onto the convoy. Maya was helped into a county ambulance, her face pale under the harsh interior lights. A paramedic checked her pulse while Oak climbed in beside her, refusing to be separated. Maya reached for Oak's fur, her voice barely audible. You came back for me. Even after they tried to break you, you still found me. Oak rested his head gently across her lap. Evan stood by the door, listening. Maya's eyes lifted to his. He's the only reason I'm alive. He stayed with me the night they took us. I guess they didn't like how loyal he was. They punished him for that. Her hand tightened around Oak's neck. But loyalty is the one thing you can't beat out of a good dog. Evan swallowed hard. That's why he led me here. Why he didn't give up, even when we didn't see any leads. Maya nodded. He knew I wasn't gone. He's always known. The ambulance doors closed, and the siren wailed into the snowy night as it carried Maya toward safety. Evan leaned against his SUV, letting the cold air fill his lungs. He replayed the last 24 hours, every moment shaped by one German shepherd who refused to let darkness swallow the people he cared about. Harper walked up beside him. You all right? I think Oak brought me into this long before I realized it. Harper gave a knowing smile. Sometimes the right dog finds the right person, even when both of them are a little lost. Evan looked at the tracks Oak had left in the snow. Deep, determined, unwavering. He didn't just stumble onto Carver's operation. He tore the first thread and made sure Evan followed the unraveling until the truth lay exposed. Oak had never been a victim. He was the catalyst. Hours later, at the Northwood Ridge Veterinary Clinic, warmth replaced the cutting air of the blizzard. Heat lamps glowed softly. The pregnant shepherd lay safely sedated. Oak watched every step the staff took, pacing when he couldn't see her, calming only when Lily placed a hand on his shoulder. You're bruised, she murmured, but your heart is steady. You're a guardian, Oak. Evan stood quietly near the door, taking in the scene. For the first time since the storm began, the world felt still. Lily approached him. She's stable. Oak saved her life the same way he saved Maya's. Evan glanced down at the shepherd, then at Oak. He saved us all. Lily smiled. Some animals aren't meant to be saved. They're meant to save. Oak looked up at Evan, eyes bright under the warm lights. Evan lowered himself to one knee and rested his hand on Oak's chest. You didn't just lead us to justice, you led us to each other. To what's right. Oak nudged him gently, exhaling in a soft, calm breath. Outside, the storm finally softened. Snow drifted down in slow, delicate flakes, settling over the town as if sealing the night in quiet absolution. Inside the small clinic, Evan realized something he hadn't understood until now. Oak hadn't been a burden or a case. He had been the compass, the one who pointed true north long before the humans around him found their way. And the journey wasn't over. Not for Evan. Not for Oak. Not for the lives they had just saved. Justice had been served, healing had begun, and a bond had formed that no storm could ever break. 1 month after the blizzard that nearly swallowed Northwood Ridge whole, the town exhaled for the first time in what felt like years. The snow had thinned to soft patches along the roadside and beneath the pines, leaving behind a landscape washed clean. The air carried the smell of thawing soil, wet bark, and something lighter, something like hope. Northwood Ridge had seen storms before, but never one that brought down a criminal empire, unearthed a missing federal investigator, saved a litter of unborn pups, and turned a stolen canine into the quiet guardian of an entire town. People now said the blizzard hadn't just passed, it had revealed. On a warm Saturday morning, Evan Walker stood outside his cabin near the ridge, hands tucked in the pockets of a worn jacket, watching Oak stretched out in a beam of sunlight spreading across the porch. The German Shepherd lay on his side, chest rising and falling in slow, steady breaths. His fur had filled back in where it had once been torn by rope and nails. A faint scar trailed along his shoulder, but even that seemed softened by the light. Oak looked peaceful, almost ordinary, but the town saw him differently now. They called him the Blizzard Shepherd. It started with a headline on the local news site. Then someone printed shirts. Then the elementary school made him their symbol of courage for the spring wellness week. Someone else painted a mural on the side of Bartlett's hardware store. Oak standing against the raging whiteout, eyes fixed on the darkness ahead, unbroken. Evan never asked for any of it, but he didn't fight it either. The town needed something to lift them, something unpolitical, untainted, undeniable, and nothing embodied that better than a dog who had been used, betrayed, beaten, and yet somehow kept choosing to save strangers. The cabin door creaked behind him. "How long has he been out there?" Lily asked, stepping outside with 2 mugs steaming in, the chill morning air. "Long enough to convince me he's solar-powered," Evan said, taking one of the mugs she offered. She smiled, then crouched beside Oak. The shepherd cracked an eye open, glanced at her, then returned to sleep. "That's a good sign," Lily whispered. "A dog only sleeps this deeply when he feels safe." Evan nodded, though part of him still struggled to believe they had crossed into safety at all. The adrenaline had taken weeks to burn out of his body. The memory of the abandoned rail yard, Carver's men, the gunfire swallowed by the storm, it still flickered behind his eyelids some nights. But everything had changed now. Carver faced a federal indictment. Ryder Knox, in a rare turn, had agreed to testify. Maya Torres, after weeks in the hospital, had begun physical therapy and planned to return home soon. The pregnant shepherd had delivered 5 pups, 4 healthy, 1 stillborn. Lily handled the loss quietly, giving the tiny body a burial on her property beneath a pine tree. Oak had stood beside her the whole time, silent and unwavering. Spring was coming, and something in the town felt lighter because of it. People weren't afraid anymore. Parents let their kids ride bikes down Main Street again. The sheriff's office was no longer overwhelmed by calls of suspicious trucks and distant howling. Even the businesses that had shuttered during the worst of winter began hanging open signs in the windows again. Life was returning. But more than that, the people of Northwood Ridge had found something to rally around. Evan noticed it first at Harper Quinn's briefing the week before. Officers who barely spoke to each other before the case now swapped updates with a sort of shared pride. Volunteers had come together to help refurbish the kennels at the county shelter. Donations filled the lobby almost daily, all because of a single dog. Oak shifted in his sleep, paws twitching as if running through a dream. The sunlight caught his fur, turning the tan and black into warm shades of gold. Evan watched him for a long moment, feeling a quiet gratitude rise in his chest. He wasn't supposed to be here. If Evan hadn't passed that ridge the night of the storm, if Oak hadn't refused to run, if that burner phone hadn't held the scraps of a criminal enterprise, everything would have gone differently. Instead, the town had a new hero, and Evan had someone who reminded him what purpose felt like. Lily stood and brushed snow from her jeans. "Maya's asking about him," she said. "She wants to see Oak as soon as she's strong enough." "She should," Evan replied. "If anyone deserves that reunion, it's her." Lily hesitated, then glanced at him. "You know he's choosing you too, right? He isn't just staying because Maya's recovering. He follows you because he trusts you. Evan sipped his coffee, letting the warmth settle in his throat. I'm starting to see that. They heard footsteps crunching through snow behind them. Harper approached with a folder tucked under one arm, her breath visible in the cool morning air. "Hope I'm not interrupting," she said. "Not at all," Evan replied. "You want coffee?" "Maybe after the news I'm holding." Lily raised a brow. "Good news or bad?" Harper stopped at the bottom of the porch steps. "Good. Mostly. Carver's cooperating with prosecutors now that he knows Ryder flipped. He's naming buyers, stash houses, even a handler network down south. We might shut down an entire chain because of this." Evan exhaled. "That's better than I expected." Harper nodded at Oak. "And it started with him. Our whole case began because a dog refused to die where they left him." Oak opened his eyes at the sound of voices, lifting his head. His ears pointed toward Harper, studying her with quiet alertness. Then, satisfied, he laid back down. Harper smiled. "And now he's a celebrity." Lily laughed. "You should see the line of people wanting to adopt one of the puppies." Evan raised an eyebrow. "Any good candidates? A family from Ridgeview, 2 retired teachers. They fell in love with the runt." Evan nodded. "Good. They'll give that pup a real home." For a moment, all 3 stood in the slow, rising warmth of the morning, watching Oak breathe steadily under the soft light. Then Harper's tone changed, more serious. "I wanted to let you know something else. The county board is drafting a proposal. They want Oak officially recognized for his service, a commendation, maybe more." Evan blinked. "Like what?" Harper shrugged lightly. "Depends on what you want him to be." Evan looked down at the shepherd. The answer came easily. "Let him be what he is now. Safe. Free. A dog who belongs to the people who love him." Harper smiled. "That's exactly why they chose you to speak at the ceremony." "Me?" Evan scoffed. "I'm not a speech person." Oak, without opening his eyes, stretched one paw onto Evan's boot, as if seconding the decision. Lily laughed softly. "Looks like you're outvoted." Harper closed the folder. "The ceremony's in 2 weeks. Think about what you want to say." Evan looked at Oak again, watching the rise and fall of his chest. "I think I already know." The others didn't answer. They didn't need to. A gust of warm, early spring wind pushed gently across the ridge, carrying the smell of pine and the promise of brighter days. Evan stood quietly, letting that warmth settle deep. The blizzard was over. The wounds were healing. And Oak slept in a way only a dog at peace could sleep, sunlit, safe, surrounded by people who would never let him be hurt again. Northwood Ridge had returned to normal, but normal would never be the same. By late spring, Northwood Ridge looked nothing like the battered mountain town that had stood trembling beneath the blizzard. The snow had melted into fields of wild grass, creeks ran clear again, and the roads no longer carried the heaviness of fear. Evan Walker stood in front of the newly painted wooden sign at the edge of an open field, sunlight warming his shoulders. Northwood Ridge K9, Haven. The letters were carved by hand, sanded smooth, and coated with a finish that made them catch the morning light like amber glass. Behind him stretched a large fenced training yard, a rehabilitation barn, and a modest building that once served as an old ranger station. Now it held kennels, a classroom, and a small office Lily swore she would turn into something less depressing as soon as she got funding for better curtains. The Haven didn't look perfect. It didn't need to. It looked like a beginning. Oak trotted out of the barn, tail swaying with the calm confidence of a dog who knew he belonged somewhere. His coat shone in the sun, his scars no longer a story of suffering, but evidence of survival. He paused at Evan's side, sitting with quiet authority. "Ready for the first group?" Evan asked. Oak lifted his head as if answering. Lily stepped out of the office wearing a Northwood Ridge Canine Haven hoodie, holding a clipboard. A bus from the elementary school is pulling up, and Maya's car is already here. Evan felt warmth rise in his chest at the mention of her name. Maya had spent the last few weeks in therapy, slowly regaining strength in her legs and lungs. Her spirit hadn't dimmed. If anything, survival had sharpened it. She was still rebuilding, but she walked with intention now, every step reclaiming ground stolen from her. Maya stepped out of her SUV, leaning slightly on a cane but smiling wide when she saw Oak. He ran to her immediately, slowing only when he neared her, as if remembering she was still healing. She knelt with effort and wrapped her arms around his neck. "You look better every week, Oak," she murmured, "and every time I come back, you seem even more like yourself." Oak pressed his head against her chest, eyes soft. Evan approached. "He's been waiting for you. Every day at around this time he sits by the north fence. I think he knows when you're coming." Maya stood slowly, leaning on her cane. "You built all of this for him." "Not just him," Evan replied. "For every dog like him. For the ones who weren't as lucky. And for the people who need what they give." Maya gave him a long look. "You're creating something important here." Lily waved from the yard. "And we're behind schedule if you two want to flirt all morning." Maya laughed despite herself. Evan flushed. Oak barked once as if endorsing Lily's interruption. The school bus rolled in, tires crunching over gravel. The door folded open and a rush of eager voices spilled out before the kids even stepped down. "It's him! The Blizzard Shepherd! Look, that's Oak! He's real!" A dozen elementary school children ran toward the fence, pressing their hands to the rails, eyes bright with awe. Some carried notebooks, others clutched small drawings of Oak done in crayon. A few held stuffed German shepherds with paper badges taped to their chests. Lily motioned them to follow her inside the yard while Evan entered from the opposite gate. Oak stayed beside him at an easy pace, calm and self-assured, the way seasoned working dogs carry themselves. "All right, everyone," Evan said, voice steady. "Before you get close, there are rules. Number 1, Oak isn't a toy. He's a working dog who's earned respect. Number 2, if he walks away, you give him space. Number 3, no screaming, no grabbing, and no running at him." The children nodded, wide-eyed. Evan looked down at Oak. "Ready?" Oak stepped forward. A little girl with braids approached slowly, holding out her hand, eyes shining with the kind of reverence usually reserved for storybook heroes. Oak sniffed her fingers, then gently nudged her palm with his nose. She gasped. "He's warm." Evan couldn't help smiling. "That means he likes you." Another boy stepped forward, clutching a drawing of Oak standing in the snow, bright blue swirls around him. He held it out, hands trembling. "I made this in art class. Do you think he knows it's him?" Evan crouched beside Oak. "Why don't you show him?" The boy knelt, placing the picture on the ground. Oak sniffed it, then rested his paw over the page, pinning it gently to the dirt. The boy beamed. "He does know." Maya stood with the teachers, watching with a wistful smile. Every now and then, her fingers brushed the old scar beneath her jaw, a reminder of the months she'd spent in darkness. Today the sunlight touched her like an answer she'd waited a long time to hear. More parents arrived after school hours. Some brought blankets of donated food and treats. Others came just to take pictures of their kids standing beside Oak. Rumors had spread across counties. People drove up the mountain just to meet the shepherd who had stared down an empire. By afternoon, Evan gathered everyone into the training hall. The walls were lined with photos. Working canines, therapy dogs, missing dog rescue missions, and Oak's now famous portrait taken the morning after the storm, snow still clinging to his fur, eyes burning with fierce determination. Evan stood at the front beside Oak, Maya and Lily on either side. He took a breath, steadying himself. "There's something I want you all to understand," he began. "Oak isn't here because he's a hero. Not really. Heroism wasn't something he chose, it was something forced on him." The room fell silent. He was used by criminals, hurt, isolated, put through things no dog should ever have to survive. But even after all of that, he protected others. Evan placed a hand on Oak's back. He protected Maya when he could have run. He saved a pregnant shepherd. He led us to the people who needed help. He never stopped choosing courage, even when humans failed him. A boy in the front row whispered, "That's why you made this place." Evan nodded. Oak deserved a sanctuary, and so do the dogs who come after him. One of the teachers asked, "Will Oak train new rescues?" Oak lifted his head, ears perked, as if answering for himself. "He already has." Lily said, "The pregnant shepherd's puppies are old enough now, and they watch him like he's the sun." Maya stepped forward, voice soft but strong. "Oak taught me something too. He taught me that even when you're trapped, even when the world thinks you're gone, loyalty doesn't disappear. Hope doesn't break. It waits for you." A wave of quiet emotion moved through the room. Outside, the wind carried the smell of pine and thawing earth. Birds flitted across branches. Life layered itself gently over the scars of winter. Evan looked down at Oak, who lifted his warm, amber eyes. "This," Evan said softly, "is his legacy. Not the blizzard, not the fight, not the scars, but the trust he rebuilt in a town that needed it. The way he turned fear into courage, the way he taught us that even a broken dog can save lives." And Oak, ears flicking, breathed out a slow, contented sigh as if agreeing with every word. Northwood Ridge K9 Haven had only just begun, but Oak's legacy was already written in every child's drawing, every family's story, every rescued animal who stepped through the gate. A legacy shaped not by what he survived, but by what he chose to become. The ribbon-cutting ceremony for Northwood Ridge K9 Haven began under a sky so clear it looked washed clean by the winter that had nearly taken the town. Mountain winds carried the scent of pine across the open field. Rows of folding chairs filled with townspeople, students, teachers, deputies, and even families from neighboring counties stretched towards the training yard. In the middle of it all stood Oak, not in a cage, not on a leash, just standing in the grass, calm and steady, as if he had been waiting for this moment long before any human recognized what he was. Evan stepped up to the podium while news cameras adjusted their lenses. Lily stood to his left, Maya to his right, both watching Oak with quiet pride. Photographers angled themselves for the clearest view of the shepherd whose story had spread across the state. Behind the crowd, a banner swayed gently. "Northwood Ridge K9 Haven in honor of Oak, the Blizzard Shepherd." Evan leaned toward the microphone. "Thank you for being here. This center exists because one dog refused to give up when the world tried to break him. Oak survived things none of us want to imagine. And instead of turning inward, he turned outward. He saved others, even when he was hurting." A murmur swept through the crowd. Oak moved closer to Evan's leg, brushing against him like a quiet reminder. Evan rested a hand on Oak's back. "And because of that, because of him, we are standing on ground that represents second chances, healing, and courage that doesn't need to bark to be heard." A reporter from Channel 7 stepped forward. "Officer Walker, the community wants to know something. Why did you keep Oak with you through everything?" Evan's hand paused on Oak's head. He turned from the reporter to the cameras, letting the silence gather like breath before a truth. He didn't just survive the blizzard. His voice softened, but the weight behind it deepened. He carried the truth no one else could see. And somehow, he saved me too. The crowd fell still. A father lifted his son onto his shoulders. A few teachers blinked back emotion. Even some of the deputies shifted, pretending the cold wind was the reason their eyes had reddened. Oak looked up at Evan, then toward the mountains. His ears flicked. Something in the wildness beyond the ridge seemed to call to him. Not danger, not fear, just possibility. Evan looked straight into the main camera lens. "What's your story with a loyal pet?" The question drifted across the field like a spark waiting for hearts to catch. The mountain wind grew stronger, sweeping across the crowd. It tugged at jackets, pushed hair across foreheads, and rippled Oak's fur like a silent anthem. The trees swayed in response, their branches whispering. Oak stepped forward, nose lifting towards the tree line. His posture sharpened, not tense, not alarmed, just aware, as if he sensed something the humans could not yet see. Maybe a memory, maybe a scent of a life he once lived, maybe the future calling him. Evan watched him, a soft understanding forming in his eyes. He knew Oak was not done. Some souls weren't meant to settle completely. They moved between worlds, the human and the wild, the past and the future, bridging them with quiet purpose. Oak glanced back at Evan for reassurance, and Evan nodded once. "Wherever you go next, I trust you." Oak settled beside him again, sitting tall, eyes fixed on the forest like a sentinel who never forgot what darkness looked like, yet still believed in light. Maya stepped closer, voice low. "You think he's remembering?" "Maybe. Or maybe he's just making sure no one else gets hurt on his watch." Lily smiled. "That's Oak. Even in peace, he protects." Another gust of wind crossed the field, lifting petals from a bouquet someone brought for the ceremony. The petals danced across the grass, swirling around Oak before floating toward the tree line. The blizzard shepherd lifted his head, following their drift. A dog once used as a tool. A survivor turned guardian. A quiet legend born from snow and shadow. The celebration continued behind them, children cheering, cameras flashing, people lining up for photos. But in that instant, Oak was already half in another world, one foot in the memory of what he'd survived, the other in the promise of what he could still do. The mountain wind rose again, like a whisper carrying yesterday's wounds and tomorrow's hope together. Evan stepped to the camera one last time. "If Oak's story moved you, if you believe loyal dogs deserve better, support this sanctuary. Help us save more German shepherds like him. Share their stories, keep their courage alive." He glanced at Oak, who stood tall against the breeze. "Some heroes don't wear badges, some just walk beside us." As the camera cut to a final wide shot, Oak turned back towards the forest, eyes deep, steady, almost knowing, like a dog who understood that his journey had changed a town, and wasn't quite finished changing the world.